today we're going to be looking at the really important area about creating multi-language courses in Gomo, exactly how that works, including showing you some very exciting new AI features to help you. The key thing here is that Gomo enables you to create a single course containing multiple languages, and the learner can just choose to switch between the languages as they move through the course. So you're not having to create separate language versions of a course and then somehow glue them together, and sort of the learner has to select right up front which version they're going to look at. It's all within the same course, and it's going to track as a single course in your LMS as well. And we have different ways that we can carry out the translation, which we're going to be exploring today, including using the new AI translation features in there, which is causing a lot of excitement. But before we jump into Gomo itself and see how we build a multi-language course, I should first of all point out, of course, that you'll find the question panel there in GoToWebinar. So please feel free to drop in any questions as we go through this, or any comments, and I'll try and monitor that and respond as we go through. But also, let's start by having a look at a couple of examples of multi-language courses created in Gomo, so we can see where we're heading with this. So I'm just going to go into this particular retail example. And here, when I go into the course, it launches in its default language, in this case, English. And I can just choose to move through this course with all of its interactions here in the default language. But at any point during the course, I can use the language selector here just to select a different, what we call language layers. So essentially these languages are stacked on top of each other within the course, which means that we can just freely switch between the languages as we move through that. And as we can see, we can also support a wide range of character sets. Also importantly, that one of the nice sort of side effects of the fact that Gomo content is fully responsive, by that what we normally mean is it will run across any screen size, any device, any orientation, that you don't need to build different versions for tablets and smartphones. But what it also means in terms of a multi-language course is that Gomo will automatically adjust its content to fit the particular language. I mean, a common question that we have is, well, what happens if we build the course in English and then we add in German, because typically German has longer sentences than English. Will we end up with text cutoffs? Will we have to move everything around and start adjusting it? Is there going to be a lot more involved in supporting languages like German? The good news is here, as we can see, that Gomo simply reflows the layout. It will just extend the column height there. So everything's going to fit in automatically. And it will just adjust back. If we just switch back, in this case, to British English, it just then fits it in there. So you don't end up with huge amounts of space and all these cutoffs and overruns. Gomo takes care of that for us. Let's just quickly have a look at another example here. This is just a simple example to show Gomo's support for right-to-left languages. So obviously very important if you're a global company and want to address learners all around the world. And so here again, I've just launched my simple course here in the default language English. If I just switch to another left to right language, we can see it's changed the language, but we still have the same layout. So we have the menu buttons here on the left. We've got the completion indicators to the right hand of the button, and we've got this image in the right hand column there. But if I switch to a right to left language, and Gomo knows which languages are right to left, what it does is automatically does various things here. It will right align the text, but also it goes further than that. We can see here that it has moved the elements, in this case the menu buttons, from the left over to the right. It's moved the image that was on the right over to the left, and also the completion indicators now on the left-hand side of the button. So essentially the entire screen is now reading visually from right to left. It's not just right aligning the text there. And that happens automatically. You don't need to spend time creating a right to left version of the course and moving everything around. It will even move the navigation button. So if we had a navigation button on the right here for the left to right languages to move to the next screen, Gomo would automatically move that over to the left-hand side. So you would click what would seem to be the back button in a left to right language to move forward. Again, all of that is automatic. Right, let's jump into Gomo itself and let's build a multi-language course and let's do some translation. So I'm going to go in here. So again, just to reiterate the basics here of Gomo, it is entirely cloud-based. You don't install any software. I happen to be on a Mac using Safari, as you can see, but of course I could be on Windows using Chrome or Edge or whatever your preferred platform and browser. Gomo will work with that. I'm just going to click into Gomo all three. And when I go into my team account, I can see the courses that I have for my team to work on. I can organize those by team member or subject area. I'm going to go into my folder here. And let's go straight in. Let's build a course and see how we make that multi-language. So on the left-hand side, I click on Create a New Course. So we'll give it again a name. Let's call it multi-language. Okay, and now here, the step at the bottom, either when we first create the course or later on, the important thing is we don't need to decide what languages we're going to support right from the start, because inevitably you might have an idea about some of the languages and then you want to add in other languages later on. You can always add in these additional language layers, but here I'm going to start off with some languages here. So here's the language list. And I'm going to select Arabic there, so we have a right to left language in there. And you can see that we not only have the particular languages, but also regional variations as well. And this can become really important, obviously, in terms of supporting all learners in whatever country they are, but also practically that either when you come to send out the content to a translation agency, it's going to tag it with the language and the particular regions. So the translation agency can make sure they use the correct spelling and the correct idioms. But also here with the new AI features, so that you can ask the AI, generative AI engines to actually be using that particular regional variation. So here we can just say choose Mexican Spanish, for example. So I can just add those in there. And also, these regional variations are important. What I tend to emphasise for people who don't appreciate these things is just for example, the difference between British English and US English. And I'm sure that if either you're from the UK or from the States, you'll appreciate that there are differences in spellings, terminologies, and so forth. Particularly, I know that British English spelling can just look plain wrong to a US audience. So that's why these variations can become important. Let's click Update. Okay, so it's saying that I've got these languages added. So all good so far. We can come back and add more later. Click Next. This is about the theme, the style templates, how my course gets its branding in terms of the fonts and colors and so forth. And we can take one of the built-in themes and upload our own brand fonts, match colors and so forth. And I cover themes and customization of themes in another one of these webinars. Today, I'm going to select a new thing that we're about to release called Ponte. Really nice, clean theme, which I think you're all going to find very useful there. So I'm going to select Ponte. This is about the structure of the course. So remember that a Gomo course consists of top-level building blocks, which we call topics. So those are almost like your storyboarding level of the course. In turn, those topics are broken down into a sequence of screens the learner's going to work through. We can link together the topics in different ways. I'm going to have an introduction. I want a menu. I might need, say, 4 learning topics to start. These are the elements which appear in the toolbar, so they'll always be available to the learner. And importantly here, I'm going to add in a language selector because we want the learner to be able to switch languages as they move through the course. And this is actually, it might seem very obvious, but it's surprisingly common for customers maybe to build a multi-language course and then say it's not working. It's always in the base language like English, and that's because they haven't given the learner any way to be able to switch between languages. So here I'm going to do this via the language selector in the toolbar. By the way, it is also possible to, for example, to set up a screen maybe at the start of the course with different languages labeled or even flags of the world, and the learner can click on those and it triggers an action to set the course into that language. So you have more than just the language selector to change languages if you need it. Let's click Create. So Gomo is going to look at all these decisions I've made, particularly here in terms of the language, because it's going to create an outline course structure for me. It's going to add in those language layers ready for me to start both editing in the base language and then also translating. So just to recap here, so we have, remember these are topics, we've got an introduction leading to a menu, simple branching out to the learning topics. Of course, we can have more complex structures, we can have subtopics, we can have adaptive learning, we can have branching. Again, a popular example is the learner comes into the course, Gomo asks them to select their job role or job function, and then what the learner sees on any given screen. Their journey through the course can depend on that choice. And again, I covered this in one of our weekly webinars called Variables and Display Conditions, all these really useful, more advanced techniques. But what we're interested in here is going to be the multi-language aspect. So here, I just click on this first topic. Let's go in and see what we have here. So, quick guided tour of the editor. On the left, we have the navigator panel. This shows me the screens in this topic. We can have as many screens as we like in a topic. Gomo's added in 2 for us to get us up and running. And when I click on one of those screens, it loads the content into the content area. 2 important things: there is no canvas size to this. We're not having to worry about nudging this to be, say, 200 pixels from the top on an 1800 pixel wide canvas. Instead, we work via these blocks and columns, and that's how Gomo gets this responsive layout, so it will run across any screen size. We also don't need to worry about fonts and colors and so forth. Our theme, our style template takes care of that. So I can go into this split view, this instant preview, so I can see what this, particularly this new Ponte theme looks like. And so here, I can just go in and edit the text. And there's no font button. I simply select a style, and how that will appear will depend on how that's set up in the brand theme. So whenever I'm editing, I'm always completely on brand. So here we can just go in and see that we've edited text. I might say that I don't want to have an image there. We'll get rid of that. All of the things you can add into a Gomo screen are what we call assets. So here at the top left, these are all the things we can add. We can add in audio and video, embed content, say from YouTube. We can have obviously text and images, but lots of these pre-built interactions like film strips and carousels and so on. Wide range of question types. In fact, if you were with us last week, I covered how you create assessments, how you turn a bunch of questions into an assessment. We look at question banks as well. But here, I'm just going to drop in some video, drag and drop it in there. Gomo, of course, already gives us some sample content. If you're new to Gomo, this is great. If you're not sure what something does, just drop in the asset, see what it does, and then we can go in and just change that. So I can just click here. If I haven't uploaded my video, I drag and drop it in there. But here, for speed, I'm just going to use one I've uploaded from my iPhone. So the important thing here is you can just use Gomo as a simple drag and drop tool, but also you get a lot of control. If you're an experienced learning designer, just note that you get a lot of control, say, over the video player here. This is where we can put our multi-language captions, the VTT files, add a transcript. I can switch off the progress bar so the learner can't skip through it. I can lock screen, so in this case, they can't just move on without watching the video first of all, or they have to answer a question first. And again, we cover content locking in another one of these webinars. So that's how we can start editing the content. But let's have a look at how this works for translation. And we've got three ways that we can use translation in Gomo. One way is to create all of your content in your base language, in this case, English. And when you're ready, then you can send that out for translation. And you do that just at the top right here. You choose translation export, and that's going to extract all of the text in the course, and it's going to download it. It gives me a zip file, and that contains a whole bunch of what's called XLIFF files. Now, XLIFF is the international standard for language translation. You should be able to send that to any translation agency. They would understand the format. They would also see the language and the regions that were chosen, so they would translate that with the correct spelling, the correct idioms, and so forth. They would send the file back to you, and you would simply choose translation import, drag and drop that in there, and then that would then populate the course with those languages that have been translated. Just a word here for Gomo users. If you are using the XLIFF translation export, which a lot of our customers obviously are, do make sure that after you send the XLIFF, you download it, send it to the translation agency for translation. You shouldn't do any editing in the course. And the reason for that is that Gomo tags all of the elements in the course with its unique ID, which is there in the XLIFF files. And if you start editing and removing things and so forth, when you come to import the translation back in, Gomo's just going to get really confused because things won't match up anymore. It's fine to edit after you've imported the translation back in, but absolute rule there. After you download, send it for translation, don't edit the course until you import it back in. It is sort of possible to recover it if you have edited it, but it is by far the easier way that if you don't edit. So just a tip and a warning there. So that's one way to do it. However, another way would be, say, for global customers, they have teams in different countries. Because Gomo is cloud-based, they could just let their teams in different countries go in. And at the top here in the editor, I can just be switching the language layers. And so you could just let the teams go in and just do their own translation and editing directly in there. But the third way, and this is the exciting thing that we've just introduced, is using generative AI to do translation. Now, we've introduced a whole range of AI support tools in Gomo, including content generation things. So in Gomo now, you'll see this Gomo AI panel. So it helps you to do things like create learning objectives and conclusions and so forth. And Gomo does this through linking into your own open AI account. And this is really important because customers have been very concerned about AI, excited about the possibilities, but very concerned about security and where is their confidential information being sent? Is it being sent out into this general generative AI cloud that could be picked up by anyone? So the answer is no, that it is purely going to your own open AI account. So you know exactly where it's going. And that is set up within your Gomo account. So if you're the account owner for Gomo, then you will see this integrations tab. This is where we can integrate with things like our Bridge LMS and Gomo Engage platform, but you'll also see an OpenAI one. And what you'll need to do there is to get your OpenAI keys from your OpenAI account. Now, to point out here, that OpenAI won't let this work just with a free trial account. You do need to actually have one of their subscription accounts and go onto our support site and Google OpenAI, and you'll find all the details about what you'll need there. So here, and it's giving you just a message there to explain about exactly how it's working. We have a link in there as well. So you configure your Gomo account to link into your OpenAI account, and that then enables these AI features, including the one we're looking at today, which is translation. So here what we're going to do is do what we call asset level translation. So this is just translating element by element. A typical use case here would be you've already got a course translated, maybe you've sent it out to translators. you make a change and you don't want to have to send it all out again for translation. So you can just do this, what we call asset level translation. So here I'm in the Arabic layer. Here on the right, I have this translate to Arabic. Click that. It just sends this text to our OpenAI account, returns the translation. I can do the same here. So it's sending that out and it's going to return it. I've asked it to translate into generic Arabic there. And just takes a few moments. This is actually linking into the ChatGPT-4 engine, which we found gives a really, really naturalistic generative AI, both in terms of, for example, creating content summaries, but also, by all accounts, in terms of naturalistic translation. So there we go. And we can now switch, say, to the Spanish layer. Just quickly do the same thing there. And we are now in the process of also introducing complete course translation. So it will be a single button click to be able to translate your entire course. So you just add in your language layers and then just click translate via AI. And the plan is that we should be releasing that at the end of this quarter, so the end of this month. So keep a lookout for announcements about that. And I'll be showing this next time we look at localization and translation, these weekly ones. So let's go into preview and let's see how this is working. So here we go. We're in English here. I can just switch to Arabic. Now notice here, because I've switched to Arabic, it's now changed the whole visual layout there, not only translated it. And I forgot to translate the instructions there, but I could do that as well. And then back to a left to right language. Here we are in Spanish there. So that's the way that we can begin to use AI for this. And we can go further than that, though, with what we're doing with these elements here. Because translating the text is one thing, but there are times when you might want to customize other things like the images. So as you switch between languages, the images are changing, for example, to make them more culturally appropriate for the region, or to show maybe different product images that are available in the different regions. And the way that we can do that here, I can start off, say, with English, I can switch to the Arabic layer. At this point, I could just browse for a completely different image to use there. So I might choose to use that image. And then for the Mexican Spanish layer, I might choose to use that image. So again, here, we can see that as we switch between the layers, it's not only changing the actual text, it's actually changing the images. And of course, we can be doing that for things like video as well, so and audio. So if you have different language soundtracks, say for the video and audio, you can simply be selecting the different videos. But also we can go beyond that. We can make this more flexible. That you can see for the video here that even in the English layer, this is where I could put in my translations of the caption. So we support the VTT standard caption file. So you create different language versions of your captions. And then what that means is that the learner's free to switch the caption language independently of the main course language. Now, the use case for this is that somebody might be confident at reading English on the screen, for example, but when it comes to a video, they might struggle with the audio comprehension in English, in which case they might want to, for example, put on the Spanish captions. So they can do that, then Gomo remember that choice, and next time they're shown a video, Gomo will automatically switch on the Spanish captions if they're available. So again, you've got all of that kind of flexibility. So you build up your course with both your translated text and swap your images and out between the languages, and also the videos, put in the caption files. And then when you're ready to then publish, the important thing here is that you simply choose course publish, and then you just publish this out as just a single SCORM file or XAPI file if your LMS supports that. So all you have to do is say publish course, choose that, publish. That's going to pull together all of the content, the theme, the branding, and so forth. It's going to give me a single zip file to download, and that's what I'd upload to the LMS. You launch it from the LMS, and then the learner can choose to switch languages there. So you're not having to publish this out as separate language versions and somehow then tie them together in the LMS. It is just the one course, and it will track as the one course in your LMS.